Halfway through the night, and we are getting super excited for our last couple of games of the week. This is, of course, the DoorDash LCO, and we are into week 5. Another one of those super weeks. And what's been so super about this week and about today in particular, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just bringing all the content through. We got some more from the fans, fellas. It's fantastic to see everyone sending their content in and giving us some things to talk about. Here's another one from Pavu's mum. Internet supporter number 1, and it's the cat sleeping again. I think it must be Rusty's fault. It definitely is your fault, Rusty, because every single time you seem to be casting, that cat is falling asleep.
Look, I have it on reliable sources that when I am talking, apparently I can put people to sleep. Now, I'm not going to name names because that would be mean, and I don't plan on being mean. I plan on putting people to sleep by talking, so bad luck.
It's
That's
your
right.
it's your dulcet tones, mate. You know, you just bring a sense of ease, calm, and everything that makes not even humans, but even the animal kingdom happy.
That's right. That's right. You make me happy as well, Rusty. But either
Thanks,
way,
Mac.
one thing that also makes me happy is more memes. Let's see what we've got coming through here from the fans. Oh, it's not a meme, it's a dog. I love dogs. That's a good one, actually.
That is a good dog. I like that dog a lot.
Yeah, and that's the LCO intro as well. I can see the yone going straight under the tower. Love that. Very,
That's
very
where we
good.
get, there's
More
almost
animals.
like videos you can hear, right? Because you know you
Yeah.
do it every time. Drew like, oh.
Oh.
I hear it every time now, and especially if it's me and Jubes, we just crack up, and otherwise I'm like, oh no.
I always hear, he's out of the fight. They have no Ash. 'Cause that's what
Cupcake
used
is
to be in the
literally
old one.
smurfing right now.
Yep.
That's it.
Gotta love it. Either way, what I do love is not 1, not 2, but 3 from the fans' content pieces. That is crazy. We've got 3 in one go. This time, we're ribbon on Skimmy, and you can't ask for much more than that.
Oh, dude, it's because of my camera orientation. I had it pointed too far up. I tell you what, I'm actually 6'11". Could have been an NBA star, but settled to be a League of Legends
Aren't you
caster.
actually, like, unironically, the tallest out of all of us? Like, you're like 6'1", 6'2", right?
We'd need to bring up that split one finals photo, right? We're all joined together.
I'm confident. I will say this with confidence. Skimmy is the tallest out of all of us. He is not 5'2", but I think we both know who sent that one, so just deal with it.
That's true. Get over to ARAM, buddy. Yes.
Well, I guess we'll get to the bottom of it eventually, one day, when we do all manage to get together for another good studio broadcast. But I tell you what, guys, it is time to start talking about our next matchup. And this one is going to be a good one. Again, we expected a lot out of Order and Pentanet. What about Legacy and Direwolves? I mean, I feel like Legacy's on a bit of a downward trajectory. Direwolves is on a bit of an upward trajectory. So the perfect opportunity, one would think, the recipe for success for the Direwolves to continue their strong run.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say, right? The trajectories are aligning in that direction, one perhaps falling, one perhaps rising. Legacy are never a team that I would look at and say this is an easy or a free win, though. They're always going to be a challenge, and Direwolves are a team that, while they have looked more convincing of late, are by no means well-rounded and perfect just yet. So, and I will say Direwolves have done this in the past. I wouldn't be shocked to see them go on like 8 wins in a row and see where that takes us, but it's never set in stone when you're playing against Legacy.
Well, I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit more as we do go through this. But let's talk about Legacy first, Skimmy. I mean, like I've said, they're a little bit up and down. They had a great run early on the split, but now things seem to have slowed down a little bit. So is it just that teams are figuring them out, or is Legacy slowing down themselves? What's the deal here for them?
I don't know. I think the Pentanet one where recency bias comes into effect, that's going to probably sting the most because it was, a pretty humiliating defeat in the way it went down. But obviously, you're up against Pentanet that will find in their stride, starting to come back to what we saw and what we sent over to MSI. I think this is a team that can sometimes be their own worst enemy. They've definitely looked really, really strong, and sometimes results haven't gone their way. I think, if it comes to macro, we know it's not really been their strongest point, but it's all been about, acquiring as many of these leads as they can get in the first opening minutes. They find fights, they got consistency, but I guess you kind of, you're really hoping that Incursio's on one, because when he's popping off, like, he will just straight carry the game.
Yeah, I think we can sort of look towards Direwolves and say, well, it's a similar storyline for them, but not necessarily just one individual player, right? There's a bunch of individuals on this roster, actually, Rusty, that can pop off and can have that big game and can pull Direwolves through to a victory.
Absolutely. I think there's been a lot to be impressed about with Direwolves lately, and it does kind of go across the board. Shock was, I'm going to say, the first to really rise up to the occasion with a level of consistency that is required of a team looking to challenge playoffs. Only was definitely, showing huge games and has had his moments of brilliance. The most overall, I would say, out of the team. But now you've got Claire showing up, you've got Guncrab showing up with some big performances of his own accord, and you've also got the Bard player down there, Cupcake, right? Getting comfortable, actually having some big games there also. So the fact they can win through anyone is a pretty big deal here for Direwolves.
Indeed. And interestingly, actually, Skimmy, in their last matchup, it was Legacy that came away with the victory as opposed to Direwolves. So this is kind of what I'm talking about, right? That little purple patch that Legacy went through in like week three into sort of week 4. They actually did end up going up against Direwolves during that point in time. And obviously Direwolves was having a bit of a rough time at that point as well. Cupcake just coming back in, and it seemed to take a little while for Direwolves to get back on the horse. But I think the storyline is a lot different coming into today's match.
Oh, for sure. And I think it's a bit of a cop-out excuse to say that, first 2 weeks they played with Calrock, then, Cupcake comes back in, and I'm thinking, he needs time. I think he's got far too much experience to fall into that category of an argument. But, only didn't have the most impressive game, 0-5. We've seen that when he's on one and when Shock's on one, those two can do phenomenal things. And they've clearly got some pocket picks that have been shown. We talk about the Cassiopeia of recency. I think when those two are really on something as well, then they just have the potential that we keep harping up about, experience and all the rest of it. The boring narrative actually comes to reality.
Well, speaking of phenomenal things, we got Nat ready on the side lanes for another interview. What phenomenal interview have you got for us today, Nat?
I'm going to be interviewing the phenomenal Winter and Claire. Thank you both so much for joining me. Claire, it's nice to finally get to talk to you. I feel like we haven't seen you in so long. So I do want to ask, first of all, how are you feeling? But secondly, the last time you guys faced up against Legacy, you lost. So what are you hoping to do differently today to get a win?
I'm feeling good. I think it kind of sucks that I haven't been interviewed. That's a bit sus. I'm not going to lie. It was like 4 weeks of no interviews. I kept asking my team, guys, what's wrong with me? Why am I not getting interviewed? But we're finally here after I had net problems for like a week and a half. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this match with Legacy. Legacy is a team where you never know what's going to happen when you verse them. Like, I've played with Sybil before. That guy is just a box of surprises. You never know what he's going to do. So last time we versed them, they definitely kind of stomped us and we didn't expect it, but hopefully this time we take the win.
Yeah, it can be like that with Legacy, but Winterer, what sort of Legacy are we going to be seeing today, and how are you going to secure a win over Direwolves?
We'll stomp them every lane, every roll, 24/7.
You reckon? So you're going to absolutely bring it to Claire today?
I think Claire's been doing really great, but I think I can kill him easily.
Alright, relax. Last time you played an unlosable matchup, okay? Lucian versus Gwen, imagine.
Love you, bro.
Well, it seems it'll be down to a little bit of the draft, but Winter, if you do win, I want to know, are we going to be able to see a sneak peek right now of maybe a potential win dance?
I'll show you after this game. 20 minutes.
I absolutely love it. The confidence is so great. Lastly, Claire, I do want to ask, because we haven't spoken to you for quite some time, I promise it was just net issues why we didn't pick you. But what's been your favorite game so far?
I don't know, to be honest. Most of the games are just whatever. I think probably the games where I got the DoorDash voucher stood out because that feels good. But other than that, I think I really want to have like really good games with the team, as a team together. And so far, none of our games have really felt like a really dominating standout performance that I think we are capable of. So I'm still looking forward to that. Until then, I'm not too content.
I love it. It means there's a lot more in the tank for Direwolves. But look, thank you both so much for joining me. I look forward to either seeing what Direwolves has to bring or the Winterer dance.
Salute.
All right, well, a good bit of banter up there in the top lane. I dare say we're going to be watching that matchup a lot.
Oh, I like Winterer so much. Every time, I feel like his confidence is growing exponentially every week, and we're getting like the true Winterer experience now. It's really good.
Yeah, I feel like Split 1, that happened with Amelg. We saw a lot more of like his meme side coming out, and now we're getting Winterer in Split 2. I absolutely love it.
All right, well, what about our confidence levels? How confident are you guys in your predictions for this matchup? I have a feeling We might all be leaning towards the same team. At least the first three on the board have gone the way of Dire Wolves. Any key pieces of insight for this one, Rusty?
I think it's funny looking at our predictions today and acknowledging how close every team is on the standings, but how similar our predictions are. I just think that's funny to actually look at because, again, like as good as Legacy can be at moments, it's never been enough to put them near the #1 position. And I think the Direwolves have shown 4 wins in a row, more than enough confidence in them after that.
Yeah, talk us through your thoughts here as well, Nat. I know you're a big Direwolves fan. Have you? Did you have any thoughts about maybe predicting for Legacy, or have they just been a bit too inconsistent for you?
Well, that's pretty much the key. I would absolutely love to tip Legacy, but they're just not consistent enough. And again, what Claire said in the interview really sort of justifies why I go for Direwolves is they are looking to still have better performances. Those guys are so self-critical. And I think the only thing, as long as you're not too harsh on yourself, that can come from that is a better performance. So hearing that from Only and then in our last interview and then Claire just then as well, it means they're always looking.
I tell you what, it doesn't matter too much if you're a Direwolves predictor or a Legacy predictor. You can always use !DoorDash in the chat to get yourself a mighty good feed for this evening. Of course, there's plenty of opportunities to do so. Hey, it doesn't even need to be an LCO day. You can DoorDash any day, believe it or not. That's crazy. Either way, it's time to jump into Champ Select. We have 2 more matches to go. Hopefully, this one's going to deliver.
Well, let's see. It's definitely not the El Clasico, but it's quite close to being that. These two organizations, very storied, been fighting since 2015 as Direwolves look to try and find a bit of form themselves. And a big test now, as you say, Rusty, with the standing so close. Can Legacy look to disrupt the celebrations of this win streak?
Yeah, well, 2 of the original 8 teams. Skimmy is definitely one way we can explain both of these rosters. And very different in the way that we would be looking at them right now, like you highlight. So yeah, what can Legacy do? We're going to be looking at this draft and seeing if they have any tools readily available for taking down Direwolves. Claire starting to once again find some form champions like Camille, then rise in priority for him and for Direwolves as a whole. Shock very good at playing those roaming styles of League of Legends, and Curzio much prefers the killing you in lane or leaving lane to kill your bottom lane, but it's predictable and it's known. So how do they pick to set it and Curzio up to succeed? And usually that means what jungler is Sybil playing, because that usually means a lot.
Yeah, he cycled through a lot of the most, well, you'd say meta ones, but also a lot of the champions that have that agency that say, look, we are going to look to try and flip this game. We are going to look to try and make some early action happen and bank on the success of that snowballing out of control. They've gone for the Ziggs to open up their draft once again. Seems to be the common theme here. Ban away the bruises, ban away the reset angles, and guarantee yourself a strong source of damage. I don't expect we'd see that flexed into the mid lane. We probably do feel a little bit more comfortable seeing that as a styled pick. And he's actually a phenomenal Ziggs player. From that matchup I saw against Gravitas, was putting in a lot of work to snowball their leads between satchel charges, heralds, and map movements.
Yeah, it's hard to see the Ziggs going anywhere other than the AD carry position here for the side of Legacy. And I think for Direwolves, this is basically just a working recipe for them so far. So I'm not surprised to see them go for this again. Cupcake with his signature pick on the Bard. Definitely going to lock that one in. We spoke about niche picks at the start of the day, Skimmy, so there's actually just no way Direwolves lose now, based off my analysis. We'll see how they play it out, because Legacy still with 4 champions to pick can deal with a Bard fine.
Well, it's already the components of what Direwolves found success going into Peace with. They had these 2 champions, and the other champions are still up and available. But there is the classic Legacy Esports Sybil. He's got himself the Elise. It is the early game agency. It is the turret dive denial. It is the ability now to find some strong mid-jungle duo.
Yeah, if it's the set they choose to go for, I'm expecting this is going to be in the hands of Winterer, but at the same time, so one of the best things that Elise does for League of Legends in a competitive environment is that you have crowd control and your laner usually has crowd control, and you just lock someone down and execute, right? That is why the OG duo matchup is Renekton and Elise, because it doesn't matter what you play. Renekton can hit the stun because he can cover so much distance to hit it. Then Elise hits the stun, you're dead. You're just done for. So while set definitely is the most likely option for Winterer in top lane, it's not always going to be free setup, right? So it adds a layer of complexity to what is quite honestly a very simple headbutt the enemy composition.
It's interesting to note as well that Direwolves' most banned champion of Split 2 has been the set. It was banned against Legacy last time. This time Legacy will find it. You can understand why the champion offers far too much, and definitely makes it difficult if you are looking to try and gank topside and get Claire up to a flying start. He's going to find that Camille once again. He's really coming to his own on that champion. You feel a sense of comfort knowing what to expect when he's got that in his hands. But there's the Ezreal ban away. Now this is where the adaptations start to take place, differing between that last game, right? Sure, the Akali was in that peace game, but the Ezreal is a major component for Gunkrab too.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does make you wonder what other AD carry choices there are, right, to go with that. Now, Gunkrab can play a bunch of different champions. It's just that when you are the Ezreal, you can do everything yourself. I actually really like the follow-up ban here from Legacy. I was thinking about this because, once again, I think the Camilla is the predictable option for Dials. It's about what goes with it. And looking at mid lane choices, I do think that Shock's default now is Rise. And this does, like, when you look at it, it makes sense because it feels the same. It fits in the same hat as an Ezreal, right? It's very hard to kill when it's isolated, and it'll push the wave perfectly fine from long range. The difference being the mana, just ravenous mana costs of a Sivir throwing boomerangs.
And I would be very keen to see the lethality build, boomerang just chucked from afar, pretty much do so much damage, negate the fact that you don't have to step up to the Ziggs. Able to match his power, and well, you've got yourself a spell shield now, not only for him, but also for the Rakan engage too.
Yeah, and Rakan going to be picked, of course, does give a lot more confirmation that the set is going to be in one of the solo lanes. Renekton actually was a ban by Direwolves, interestingly enough. Perhaps to say it could be a set mid, Renekton top lane even, or that it was a set support. But we have a confirmation here either way, and I think we know where everyone's going on the side of Legacy from the champions they picked. Flexible, perhaps, for other comps, Skimmy, not for Legacy.
Well, we've somehow got our way all throughout this draft with a Lulu not being picked or banned. How we found ourselves in this situation is bizarre to say the least, but when you talk about niche picks, when you talk about Cupcake, you know that he will, I'm sure, be quite keen to say forget about that because my Bard is just that much better.
Yeah, and also, amusingly, this is exactly what we just said would happen for Direwolves, right? Almost picked every champion from the Direwolves draft before it was picked bar the Sivir, and that's only because the Ezreal was banned, which is our initial thoughts, right?
Yeah.
So nothing crazy, nothing surprising, nothing out of the ordinary for Direwolves overall. The fact that Lulu wasn't locked in, you know, you could look at Shock and say it's possible there. Lulu Shinzao is a pretty crazy duo, but the Rise is his go-to, and often people will look at this matchup and say, you just picked a Rise into Illusion. And in my experience, the Rise has a not so good time. But if you're a good Rise, you're actually quite strong early. Like your first base is still pretty powerful overall for your damage output. And you scale wonderfully into the game. So you actually are in an okay position there overall. The risk, the concern, Skimmy, it's all down to Big Sibs and what he's able to get done in the jungle.
Well, certainly is, because I think we heard from a post-game interview by Shock saying that there's a big misconception with Rise that he is this late game, wants to sit in a side lane champion, right? We saw him, especially in that game against Gravitas, they had pretty much the same top setup. They basically had a volley bear instead of a Xin Zhao, but serves the same purpose in terms of engaging. They just ran topside to Camille, realm warped in, guaranteed fights would be won. And it was then a case of, cool, well, I've accelerated your lane, I'm ahead well before I need to be. What is your response back to this one, right? So now there's a big agenda on Sybil's hand to say, I need to get a lot of work done before level 6.
And we've spoken about LeBlanc before, and one of the biggest things that it provides is gank setup. So like for a Shinzao to get into the lane, LeBlanc hits the chains and suddenly it's on for you. Rise is the same, you know? So it can actually provide pretty good gank setup, as can Claire on this Camille. And we all know what a Bard is capable of running around the Rift, for better or worse, throwing those tempered fates out. For Legacy overall though, and the composition as a whole, it's very reliant on Winterer and ML, so both opposite sides of the Rift, having a semblance of fighting power, because the rest of the map is either pick or complementary or just damage. So Rakan engages is going to be crucial if Legacy are looking to get the W here today.
Let's see if they can get themselves across the finishing line and ruin the party, ruin the win streak, and get themselves back into the mix of things as a team hungry for playoffs. We're going to check in with Coach Ceres as we welcome him back onto the show to talk through a few of the things that have happened here tonight. I want to first of all talk about confidence levels, and it seems apparent that Winter is on another one, because I paraphrased, but he pretty much said we're going to stomp every lane. So is that the sort of shared sentiment that, look, we are outperforming what we did in Split 1. Let's be confident.
Yeah, no, I think everyone has the right to be confident. I think the last time that we played against Direwolves, we did pretty much stomp every lane. And so, yeah, like we've had some poor performances in the last week, but it doesn't take that away from us, you know, especially against the Direwolves.
Speaking of this matchup in particular, then we looked at some of the picks and Direwolves and said they seemed a little bit predictable, right? You've seen what they can achieve before, and you could argue the same could be said for yourself with the likes of the the Elise and so on. But how do you play into that strength, knowing what they're going to be looking to do and how strong you can be in the early game? Do you look at this and say we're just going to run it back because we know exactly what your plays are?
Yeah, I think there is an element of what's you know, like what isn't broken, don't try to fix, and we do feel like we can just run back style that functions best for us. Ultimately, you know, I'd say we take a lot of really aggressive, sometimes coin flip plays, to be frank. And when they work out for us, then you know, we're in a really powerful position. So optimizing our chances and turning that from like a 50-50 to a 60-40, it usually favors us, right? Especially in early game.
And obviously there's no forgetting the fact that Ziggs is the hot meta choice right now for the bot lane, not having much success in mid lane. But what did you make of the fact that now a Sivir is coming in to try and act as a deterrent, act as a bully, and try and go toe-to-toe with it?
Yeah, I mean, Sivir is essentially just functionally, it's basically like Ezreal, except it has more wave clear, but in terms of how safe it is, and naturally, if they have support matchup advantage, they can win lane, they can bully out the Ziggs. But realistically, when you're first picking Ziggs, like, you know, you don't really stress too much if it's going to win lane or not. So yeah, it's just about what it's going to provide later in the game and the utility in terms of macro, moving around the map and taking turrets. So yeah, don't really care about the Sivir. It's definitely a good response into Ziggs and lane, but functionally it's whatever. They could have picked Ezreal there, could have been the same, or Varus even.
Well, let's see what it can achieve. I wish you boys the best of luck. Hopefully we get to see a bit of a winter celebration angle once again, but thanks for your time, series.
Yeah, no.
All right, Skibby.
We're on. Out of the interview, into the play-by-play. Good night, Claire.
Out of the frying pan into the furnace for the top lane of Direwolves as well. No hesitation there. Sybil plays the Elise. Sybil immediately goes to the top side of the map. Exactly what we all expected to see. The leash happen bottom, and oh my god.
He's just TP back in. Please say it's not so. There's the TP. Looking to try and back him up right now. There's the Haymaker full charge. Winter is out of the fight so far, but get the turnaround. Shock punishes him with convection.
I tell you what, if that play was successful, it was just over for Claire. Yeah. But the teleports were definitely there and ready. Worst case scenario, even Guncrab's got a teleport, so who knows? The reinforcements were available, and that is the most legacy thing I've ever seen, because it was so unnecessary. You've got your first kill. You're feeling really good about your top matchup. Sybil's been unleashed on the map successfully. But to coin what Series has just said into the description of legacy themselves, Skibby, often aggressive, sometimes coin flip.
It pretty much was the case there. Could have worked. Was very close to. But Shock too disciplined to let that one go unpunished and was able to try and back him up in this case. And they needed that. And before that, actually, if we do get a chance to breathe, we did see only pop his head into mid lane and force out double flash into Incursio.
Yeah, he was able to force the flash out of mid lane. While it isn't the most game-changing thing, and we do mention this all the time, you'd rather get rid of the summoner from the laner than the jungler. It's a pretty good trade. It does mean that, again, the return offender of a Xin Zhao is really highly likely when your mid laner is a Ryze, just because they have the gank setup. So while it's a nice little play there from Direwolves, it's very cheeky and gets the sums, you call it a win. The trade-off was still that kill in topside, right? Like, you've now shown that you're crossing through mid at level 2 from red buff. You've actually opened the floodgates for Sybil to dive top like he did. So you can actually look at that and say pretty big misplay overall. But that's just because of a good follow-up from Sybil.
Well, he's come back onto the map with a Dark Seal, so don't expect him to slow down now. He's going to continue to be aggressive whilst he's only level 4. And he's still got himself top side, but he does not know that Claire has just gone for a reset. So he's going to go for the lane gank. Going to be wasting his time here. And if anything were to be forced once Claire rocks up, only is not too far behind.
Yeah, Sybil, that is either looking to kill Claire at the turret, or it is looking to protect Winter as he pushes the wave in. You can see the back pings there onto Winter as he goes to clear this ward also, but has the hover. Doesn't feel too afraid of that situation. But they were definitely aware of, right? They were definitely respecting where Only could be on his Xin Zhao. So Sybil, honestly, come on.
Third time's the charm. That's twice now the
Today?
recall's been cancelled.
Today is top lane, isn't it?
It really has been.
Bit of play school. Today we look through the top window.
I did see afterwards, after that Chiefs game, Liv literally just posted an emote. That was the tent. That was all it was. Sums it up quite nicely.
I know we're not sponsored by BCF, but I'll tell you what. We're your biggest advocates for camping. Woohoo, okay.
We've seen this play before. Magical Journey, hello. Rock up to mid lane. You got no flash. There's a Realm Warp. Where are you going to go? They've picked him up. No Tempered Fate required. 3v1. Lights out for Incursio.
That really was just the kill secure. Very nicely played from Direwolves overall. Bard Portal just makes it so hard to deal with. And the Rise ultimate as well. Really secure, no escape route for someone without their flash. There was no wave that was going to be lost by Incursio in that situation. Has teleport as well, so ultimately it is just the money, right? Is just the kill. But you take that if you're Direwolves.
Certainly do. You know how volatile Incursio can be. Make sure that he's unable to really influence the game as much as he would want. Shock now, got a solo kill, up by a fair bit of CS as well. The double tier stackers well and truly finding success here is Guncrab's also opted into a cult. So no contest here for the first dragon. That goes the way of Legacy.
Which is good, because it will slow down any kind of snowball efforts here from the side of Direwolves, who at the moment are starting to feel like they're getting a little bit further ahead in this game. Lots of priority and pressure down bot. Good damage.
Look how Cupcake stepping up on that one. Goes for the journey, but still receives the Mega Inferno bomb straight to the dome. Gotta be careful now, because Sybil's on the hunt.
He's earned that one the hard way, though, here, Skimmy. Going for the Electrocute. Increasing your damage means that you are going to be much more squishy overall anyway. Guardian is the
how
standard.
He's posturing, right?
Yeah.
He was just running up to them 1v2 saying, I want to proc this.
Yeah, I mean, Meep Slap and a Q is an Electrocute proc, so that's why it's obviously good. But I don't recall the last time I've seen someone actively build Electrocute unless they were me and Solo Q saying, I don't trust my teammates. And I feel like I trust my teammate in this game.
You'd hope so at this level. Let's see what they can do when they come back for base, because that's going to be the big shot here for Styled, who's also opted into a Darksteel. Classic Legacy, wanting to snowball early, wanting to find themselves that success that, well, really started in this part of the map. And you can see it still reflected on the scoreboard, 70 CS to 45. Whilst Claire did get bowed out there by Shock's Rise, still feeling the aftermath.
Only looking to just push this wave in, it seems like. You can see the Legacy are just going to be going straight for the objective of Rift Herald, only showing himself Orbit confirms that is secured as well. Winterer does seem to be having a pretty good run in top lane, considering the jungle pressure it got up there. It checks out. But that's two objectives back-to-back is the main point here, right? Legacy starting to feel themselves around the Rift, while Direwolves are playing the money-hungry game.
Invading the red buff, spotted out there by Melg, who will drop a control ward to guarantee vision is understood. But the trade-off has been two objectives for the money game you highlight. Spell Shield cancels at the bomb completely, but that's now two turret plates gone. I suppose the question becomes, how can they unlock Styled here to guarantee that they can look to try and get some plates as well?
I mean, Legacy do get themselves the Rift Herald before, right? And we talk about a Ziggs often as a combo for that, so lots of plates are available for Legacy. Teleport is available for Winterer also, who's having a pretty good time top. Guncrab.
They know this. Ooh. Oh, fantastic Spell Shield buffered. Guncrab going to hook the lethal tempo. Might now just go for the all-in. The boomerang hits too. He's been ignited, but Styles just dead and gone. Return back to the lane and get another kill.
Yeah, I mean, just a miscommunication, it feels like there from Legacy. You know that Rakan's going to dash towards you, and you know that a Bard is going to try and hit that Cosmic Binding to lock you both down at the same time. So you should just be able to dash and then split, right? There's no way that should actually lock you down, but it just opens the gates. Guncrab able to put max damage out, hit the boomerang for free, and an easy pickup there in the end for Direwolves in just a 2v2.
Well, Cupcake's got the boots of mobility, so he can stop playing this game and start playing the Meat Hunter and just run around looking to try and do his own minigame. Perhaps pop his head into mid lane once again and look to try and force that flash. But you start to get a little bit concerned here. It's not the biggest, but I mean, 10 minutes in, down by nearly 3,000 gold. You start to get a little bit angsty.
Oh, all right.
Flash. Fantastic flash from Shock.
He's not messing around. That is a very fast Elise running at you, so respects it and flashes. Top.
A lot of damage on towards Claire, but Hookshot will disengage him to safety. I suppose that's the point of strength right now. Whilst Incursio is still pretty strong. Certainly not one to be forgotten about. Winter really is translating his interview with Claire into the Rift.
He's certainly having a good time up there, having a biff. Stride Breaker on it now. It no longer provides the dash, but the extra slow after you use the Face Maker. Face Breaker? Haymaker, that's it. Yeah. Face Breaker.
Showstopper. All
And the
big
other
ones.
one.
We could win that trivia game, I tell you that much. It's too easy.
And the cue that I don't remember. Incursio in a whole lot of trouble.
Jungler's rocking up. That's fantastic from Only. Doesn't tag Incursio, so the ultimate knocks him back, and it's an easy pickup. And it's Shock that gets a second kill to his name.
Only has just straight up put Incursio in the bin.
Yeah.
That was insane from him right now. And they're going to be able to get top lane, respond to this Herald charge, maybe even find Winthra.
Fantastic Cosmic finding a W afterwards whilst the shield expires. Oh, they buffed the flash! They still get the kill. Only it's just put together a highlight reel in the last 30 seconds.
It's just a kill squad running around the Rift as well. Not only are they making highlights, making montages, it's constantly successful. Bot lane, maybe a turret plate will be the cost of this one, but Gunkrab on the Sivir has so much wave clear with the Manamune rushed as well, maximizing his mana output and just getting the raw AD stats in there for wave clear. Being as efficient as possible. Claire's been let out of the hole just a little bit more. Compliments of the Roam squad working their way from mid to top and only putting on a clinic.
That's beautiful. It's goosebumps. It's the passage of play you have to hope that you can emulate from solo queue, from scrims, and into stage games like this. And whilst it hasn't really changed the gold lead, we mentioned 3K only moments before, has forced Legacy now to try and buck their ideas and decide what do we do instead, because that's been multiple times now. Sybil's been locked in place topside. He's veered his head in towards mid once. Cocoon doesn't connect. Flash away was found, and I think he's just here just to make sure that Incursio can get that wave untouched. But he's going to be careful now because he's run down the wrong side of the river and does not have repel. This is gone again.
The life of Elise. You make a play, and if it doesn't work, it really doesn't work a lot of the time, and you're made to suffer for that one. Sybil has a crack at mid, uses the repel. Meanwhile, threatening the dive on Incursio now as the end result.
It's like clockwork. They are doing it time and time again. This is why you don't ban Lulu. Don't lock it in. That's why Cupcake decides that I'm qualified to play Bard and use Electrocute as well.
I'll tell you what, you could say that, or you could say that picking Elise blind as your second pick also maybe not as successful an option. Gunkrab is going to use his ultimate to get himself out to safety there, and meanwhile, top Skimmy. It could be happening again. Bard ult on the turret, and the dive is free.
Oh no. They're going to wait for this wave to crash. There is nobody here to protect you. Winter, you need a lifeline. You've got no flash. Can you proc the ultimate? Can you even hit the Haymaker? You can't. The CC coupled together is flawless. And those words are coming back to haunt him.
Yeah, no flash. No real angle there to use the ultimate too successfully either. So once again, well played by Direwolves. Showing not only their mastery of the champions that they're on, but their mastery of playing from a lead with these champions as well. The Bard and the Xin Zhao everywhere making plays. And yeah, the Electrocute's working. The Imperial Mandate build as well, definitely working. Showing everyone that he's here to win. And they're here to win 5 in a row, Skimmy.
Certainly are. Only 2 teams right now on a 4-win streak, but they want to be in pole position. Shock not going to cop that bomb. Goes Golden, looking for a lifeline. Picks up a kill with the Rune Prison before he ultimately falls on down. The kill and the shutdown goes the way of Sybil. But I'm sure Legacy are hoping that gold injection went elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it puts Sybil back in the game, but Incursio is still 0-3 and 40 CS down. And Claire is going to say hello. He's walked his way here to cover the wave instead of Shock, who's dead for 15 more seconds.
And Gunkrab's literally just been playing the map, using his ultimate to run away from the wave. He's playing a different game right now. Ooh. Oh, They try to buffer it there, Claire. I think it's still going to ultimately pay off as the Hextech does its job. Take another turret shot. Flawless from him not to fall on down. Spoon feed another kill to the Zinzao with the red buff. There's the flash repel, double buff Elise. Cocoon Spiderling. Oh, is it enough? Flashed away from the Ricard Q. And somehow only just does not fall down.
Just the magician act right there. The Houdini of the jungle doesn't go down. Try as they might. Claire tanking just enough for him also.
Oh no.
You still chalk that up as a win for Sybil.
Things you hate to see. Oh no. Everfrost, fantastic repel away, cancelling the animation. You'll say, I'll get that shot then, and I'll steal your blue.
We'll call that an angry realm warp. You stole my blue, now I must kill you on sight. Just not able to find him. Jungle is too hard to kill, it seems, in this game. But still a monumental gap right now between mid laners.
Maybe he's got a second chance now picking up that blue buff, but he's going to have to run away. Doesn't have flash, but he has phase rush as the rune. Sure, he's going to flash out of the bomb, but it's not enough. Multiple members going his way, but Starred finds his first kill of the game.
The gap is starting to shrink between those mid laners. There's a nice little play there from Legacy. Sybil just haunting him. Finding him at every opportunity, steals the blue. They try and chase you down. No realm warp means it's on.
And I think you'd expect nothing less from these two teams right now. They want to brawl. Legacy, absolutely, and Direwolves mean business. They're angered that they lost to this team last time. And they're saying, we'll welcome that aggression. Let's parlay.
So Claire is still pretty far behind in CS overall and is absolutely in Narnia. Just looking at the wave, so probably shouldn't have been here.
Fantastic. Great set ult to interrupt E2. Hookshot will not be successful for the disengage away. He didn't have flash. I don't see a world in which he could have disengaged anyway, but that's a win for Legacy.
I mean, what's he doing there, Skimmy? Your team's in base resetting for a dragon that's up in 50 seconds. You're just watching the minions die to the set in front of you. If he's going to push it, why are you there?
He's got TP available, and he'll be back up in 5. Good timing, because another dragon spawning in 20. Sybil.
No.
Both actually having a crack at each other, so now finding their health bars depleted.
Mid lane priority belongs to Direwolves here, though. Legacy are the ones stuck in a side lane with no waves to work with, so they have to walk towards Direwolves to make this happen. They may just start the dragon, but the cost could be 2 turrets minimum in mid lane. As this first turret goes down before a charge even happens, Legacy really stuck.
This is not good. The bomb's going to trim the wave, but a couple of minions still remain. The hero goes and charges one. That's 2 turrets gone in an instant. If they can't interrupt this or stop it, that's a 3rd charge. Unbelievable value at the expense of a dragon.
Yeah, and only just losing the dragon there. Sybil, by himself, has to show some respect. He's actually asking for assistance because he's decided that the scuttle crab is the most important thing. And Direwolves get to reset or get to move from that mid lane turret that they've just chunked towards top lane en masse. And Sybil nowhere to be seen, unfortunately, as the dragon was seen to be done.
Unbelievable macro right now. Direwolves have had enough of playing these fights. They're going to go once again on towards Winter, a 1v4. What can he do about it? Well, he can flash away, apparently. Stride Breaker will be there. But in a heartbeat, you've basically said 1 dragon, 3 turrets. Worth.
Massively worth, and it's only the 2nd dragon of the game. If this is a win condition for Legacy, it is 12 minutes away at the least. Definitely not something that will immediately help them, right? Where in the immediate future, it is an 8,000 odd gold gap that they have to try and close. And Curzio almost jukes us, but we'll be able to get the turret. Baron now on the cards.
Certainly is, and as much as top lane has been camped tonight, it's also been a theme for very early Baron starts. So 20 minutes is when it's up. Right now there is no vision, no indication that these teams would be keen to go for it.
You know what it's also been, Skimmy? It's the team that camps that loses.
True.
Just a trend worth noting there, I think.
All about stats tonight. What do they mean?
Oh, you've got some banger stats for Game 4.
That's true. Spoiler alert.
I think the issue here is getting to the Baron for Legacy. Like, they're fine right now, but I don't think Direwolves have put all of their emphasis on even securing the area just yet. They're still just calmly farming their lanes. I think if Direwolves actually put their foot down and get an established 1-3-1 in place, which means vision around probably top side blue buff quadrant of Legacy and the river itself, I think it's almost impossible for Legacy to walk into. They have to use at least Spiderlings most likely to even check bushes. And they're starting to make their move now. Teleport behind, actually.
That's a fantastic wall to collapse onto Incursey. Is 0-4 so far. His damage output isn't going to be the highest. Claire might just be able to 1v1 him, but a fantastic charm there by Mel. Out goes the Tempered Fate, locking those two in place. He's just going to fall on down afterwards. A double kill so far. 2 kills found by them. They go for the magical journey, and here's a Realm Warp as well. So much mobility, Blast Cone or not. You're going to Blast Cone me to my safety, and just like that, Gunkrab finds his first bit of kill participation in this game. And Direwolves are dominant.
Yeah, easy teamfight victory for them, right? They catch Legacy with nowhere to go. It feels like they were pushed out of their jungle towards top lane, then they have a teleport flank in top lane. Remember the inner turret that they took down a couple of minutes ago? The residual ward in that bush after the turret drops gives them the flank. Not only does it give them the flank, it gives them the teamfight, gives them the Baron, and snowballs this game out of control. That ward was moments away from dying, and Curzio dashing in to find Claire waiting in the wings. Now, Cupcake definitely did not need to use his ultimate there, but it doesn't matter because the follow-up's fine, the cooldowns reset, and kill after kill goes the way of Direwolves.
If anything, it nullified the entirety of the placement of that Mega Inferno Bomb too. And just like that, Direwolves able to find multiple kills. They can recall, they can take the Baron, and they can quite comfortably say now, we're soon to be 11,000 gold ahead at the 23-minute mark.
It's a little bit too early in the game to have a gold lead of this margin. You did get your answer, by the way. It is going to be the Lethality Siver. Not often seen as a first item, but they'll get the Duskblade as soon as they can. It's not exactly the highest value to have the Mythic passive or the invisibility super early on into the game when you need things like Mana more. And the Serilda's Grudge makes it almost impossible to catch or to run away from a Sivir at this point. So expect some insane damage from a Boomerang if it ever hits, is the main point on that one.
Yep.
But really the massing of the forces is going to be around Only and Shock as they've now grouped up with Claire.
And the biggest dilemma that I'm pondering right now, Rusty, is who's going to get the play that delivered, because Emil wants it to be him. So far, he jumps in, 2-man knockup, forcing out a flash and forcing out a stopwatch too. In jump set, looking to try and take down some key targets, but the Haymaker is just a little bit short. They've taken out Gunkrab. There's the culling from Max distance onto Inkosu, but Shock is somehow still alive, down to 400. He has the Realm Warp if he wants to try and re-engage and turn this fight around. 2 members in stasis, but when they come out, surprise, surprise, you're dead as well. It's going to be a delayed ace, but an ace all the same, and Direwolves with Baron might just look to end this game.
A Cupcake actually going to go mid to push that wave in as well, so it does feel like they're probably just going to look at 2 inhibitors. They don't really have a wave in bot, so we'll see how they choose to play this one out. It's entirely possible that they attempt the end, but I would say it is not the most likely outcome. Still another massive teamfight victory going the way of Direwolves. You can see the damage in the last teamfight, however. I think the most interesting point is how even that damage output is, but how little of a difference it makes, right? Because there's extra resistances. There's just more sustainability there on the Direwolves side of the fence. Lots of healing as well from Only on this Xin pick. You can see him coming out pretty clutch. Gunkrab ultimately with the weirdest flank, maybe in LCO history. Just walks up, gets hit by a set ultimate, bringing Only back towards his team, and it just dies. So 850 gold, the way of Legacy, but not enough to do this. You know, not enough to win with the main force in the team fight.
It's not really been a game determined by these dragons. It's been a bit of a distant afterthought. I suppose all you could really say is the 2 heralds have found a fair bit of success, but ultimately the one that Direwolves had really blew this game wide open in their favor.
If it was over before that last fight happened, Skimmy, you would say that Legacy actually found close to their perfect fight, really. And now it's 14,000 gold. At 25 minutes, I think there may be a world where And we've mentioned this a lot when Legacy are in losing situations. They don't go down quietly into the night. They definitely go down swinging with all of their might. That was actually really poetic. Jeez.
Should be a caster.
The point is, I think Direwolves may even challenge for the most goal difference in a game win.
You got the tones and you got the bars.
Super hot fire, man.
Biggest bounty in the game so far is on this Bard. 500 gold for him. And he has been having a stellar performance, to say the least. Once again, there's the charm from the Rakan. That seems to be the bread and butter combo to guarantee that this bomb finds success. But as Sybil goes out, he might just fall on down. It's delayed, but he does die all the same. Tempered Fate once again cancels the Haymaker, but they can't prevent Shock from falling down. Now, Claire in a 1v4 situation sees two blinking health bars and sees minions destroying one Nexus turret.
Yeah,
He has some ideas.
Dials are just slapping them with the wallet, Skimmy. Once again, an okay fight for Legacy, but not nearly enough to contest the game itself. It looks like they're fighting for the game here.
He's been silenced. Winter doing whatever he can to try and turn this game around, try and buy a little bit more time, but time is not on their side. The wallet is fat, the paychecks are big, and the Direwolves mean business. This will be 5 wins on the go now. The biggest win streak in the league. It took a bit of time to ramp up, but they are in unbelievable form, to say the least.
Gotta deal with the spider first. Real nuisance, unfortunately, for Direwolves, but yes, the inevitable will occur. The Nexus will fall, and in the end, it was a pretty clean victory here for the side of Direwolves. It never really looked like losing. A single dive in top lane was the most immediate point of concern, and then how quickly things turned around for the Direwolves, right? As they teleport up there to respond to that one. And the rest of the game from that point was, again, just an absolute masterclass from your jungler only and your support in Cupcake roaming around the map, making expert plays in tandem.
Big smiles on all the faces there for Direwolves, and for good reason too there, Mac, because that is a fantastic victory for them to talk about and carry on into next week.
Yeah, indeed, and I'm thinking about it. I'm looking at the matches that are coming up next week, and I'm starting to think, is it time that we say Direwolves is looking like the best team in the LCO at the moment? Are they the #1 team in the power rankings? They've beaten Pentanet last week. They beat Peace this week. Now, the one question mark in my mind is that they haven't actually beaten Chiefs, at least recently. They didn't beat them last week, so they're going to have to do it next week. But if they do manage to do that and continue this win streak, well, then Direwolves might well be the team to beat. That, however, still feels like pretty early days, right? We've still got another 3 weeks left to go in the regular split. We've got a super week next week. In fact, I lie, we've actually got 4 more weeks, including that super week next week. So there's still a lot yet to be said for either team here, for all teams really. But I mean, Direwolves, at least in the middle of the split, are looking phenomenal at the moment, aren't they? They just seem to be smurfing in this game. Cupcake on the Bard looked phenomenal. Only on the Xin, he was just going crazy, as has pretty much been the case for the last couple of weeks. I feel like he's been a pillar of consistency in that roster. Shock did well. Claire managed to hold things down in the top lane, and Guncrab was able to sort of do the same down there in bot. I don't think it was necessarily a bad performance from any of the players on the Direwolves roster. And then Legacy, I mean, again, unfortunately, the woes do continue. There was some good fights in there, particularly towards the end, but that gold difference just a little bit too much to deal with. So overall, pretty straightforward win for Direwolves today, and they continue that win streak, like you said, 5 in a row, and that's just looking really, really good for them at the moment. I don't know that there's a bad word you can say about them at this point in time, Rusty.
I think the only interesting comparison that we could make, right, because your first question was, do we put them in consideration for best in the league? I think 5 wins in a row is definitely putting them on the right trajectory for that. But they're doing it in a very different way to perhaps, let's just say, Pentanet.gg, who are probably the other front runners with the Chiefs right now. PGG have like a standardized composition, right, of like more meta champions, where Direwolves have kind of thrown everything that is like their specialized champions into the mix in their draft. So very different styles, and I'm actually most interested to see how they clash when they compete against PGG next, and what Chiefs will do, right, in response to both of those teams now as they're starting to find genuine form as contenders for the title.
On the note of Direwolves, I mean, I think a lot of these questions are going to be answered going into week 6, right? Because they've got games against Order, Chiefs, and Pensnet all in the same Super Week, right? So that's going to be the big test of is that streak actually meaningful? Does it actually equate to anything tangible, getting closer and closer to playoffs? Flipping it over to the side of Legacy, though, that's going to really hurt, right? You had a demoralizing defeat against Pensnet, close to like down 20k gold. Pretty much the exact same happened here against Direwolves. And I can't imagine there's going to be too much fun in the VOD reviewing over the weekend.
Yeah, indeed. All right. Well, a great game from Direwolves, and it's time for another interview. We've got Nat down on the side lanes. Who is it this time, Nat? Are they going to give us their opinion on who deserves the player that delivered? Because, hey, there was any number of options out of that game.
That is true. Look, I could definitely ask them that question, but I will be joined by Cupcake. Congratulations on the win and a great performance. I want to ask about the draft. You picked the Bard again, and Rusty seemed to think it might have been a little bit predictable per se, or like he could see some of your champ picks coming. Do you think you guys are falling into that predictability, or that teams are soon to figure out how you guys draft?
Honestly, I don't care if me blind picking Bard is predictable. If teams can't punish it, then, you know, I can just keep doing it. And I'm definitely not only limited to Bard. I have other champs. So we have, like, we're cementing our style, like I've said in previous interviews, and maybe blind Bard is predictable, but, you know, you got to punish it.
That's true. I mean, why change it up when it's clearly working for you guys? I want to cast our eyes to the top lane. You know, there seemed to be a lot of priority there for Legacy. Why do you think that they were so intent on shutting Claire down, and how did you guys react to that one?
I don't necessarily think it was like targeting Claire as a player per se. I think it's how the draft panned out. We had winning priority bot. They have Elise who just wants to like gank top level 3 as soon as possible. So we were happy to just trade him off and generate a big lead for us in bot and just let me roam around and do everything. So yeah, as long as we didn't bleed too hard out in the early game through top, then the game was pretty straightforward, I think.
It did have that slow progress. You know, you guys weren't taking too many risks, but did it feel that there was a moment where Legacy could have come back in, or did you just feel very in control that whole game?
There was some plays that we kind of overstayed our tempo a little bit, but we were always getting something out of the map. Like our Civ was just getting free farm and towers, and it didn't feel like Legacy ever had control over the map. They just had like one or two decent things happen on like one spot, so it felt in control for the most part.
And very quickly, last question: who do you think deserves player that delivered?
Okay, so at the end of the game, Geordie and I were kind of having a discussion of who's going to get it, and we were trying to bait each other to die to give the other person the player that delivered. But I made sure that I didn't die, he didn't die. So honestly, coin flip between us probably. No, but honestly, we all did our part in the draft. I reckon full team effort. Just give it to all of us.
It really was. And I wish I could give it to all of you guys. But look, congratulations again on a stellar performance. And thank you for joining me.
Thanks.
I have to laugh at that only because I can see this little gif in the corner of my eye on the Discord of someone flipping a coin.
Flipping a coin. Someone. Who is it? Who is it, Matt?
Well, now I've just looked and I don't want to say it.
It had to be between those two, right? I mean, I was just blown away. It had me going crazy out of my mind just casting it, but yeah, man, that's such entertaining League of Legends to watch.
Well, I think it's time for us to announce who is the DoorDash player that delivered from that game. Of course, it had to be between Only and Cupcake, but today it goes to Only. Stellar performance in the jungle. 5-0 and 11. Did not die, as Cupcake said. And hopefully he is going to share his mate a dinner with that $100 voucher that he does take away from that one, because to be honest, that one, as stated, was such a coin flip.
100%. It was the biggest coin flip between both of them for playing out of their minds. For me, if I was to give a reason as to why it's Only instead of Cupcake, it was the mid dive where he hit the flash Zinsec.
Yeah.
Where he was able to hit the W afterwards, trying to flash away from that. He's always going to be chasing you down. So just, you know, the perfect mechanics coming out of the perfect human. Am I right? Yeah, I'm right.
Yeah,
you're right.
A couple of key moments, obviously that one, but then literally 30 seconds later, he goes topside, makes a huge play there as well. Then there's the moments where he's getting jumped on in mid lane and somehow survives on like 10 HP. And I mean, yeah, he's playing a champion that you know is quite keen to fall on down to allow the rest of his team to pop off, but he didn't die. It was flawless. And I guess there's arguments to be said, you know, meta champion versus non-meta champion, who deserves it, support bias, jungle bias, I don't know. It was very close to say the least.
I mean, to be honest, he's unlucky not to get it given the fact that he's got 3 support mains on the table. Skimmy, I don't even know, are you a support main as well? Or are you just an ARAM main?
I mean, I'm an ARAM main, but like if I was to play Summoner's Rift, I would play support too. Yeah,
We're
4
all
support
support.
mains. So unfortunate for Cupcake, that bias doesn't show through quite enough. Tell you what though, tell us about your biases. ! Survey in the chat for a chance to win some RP. There's one of 10. Well, you can win one of 10. 11,000 RP on offer per redemption. Of course, you have to give us all your opinions on the LCO, though. So make sure you say nice things. In the meanwhile, though, enjoy the break. We'll be back in just a second. Don't go too far away. Freaks by Surf Curse to entertain you while we're gone.
I think it's still going to ultimately pay off as the Hextech does its job. Take another turret shot, flawless from him not to fall on down. Spoon feed another kill to the Zinzao with the red buff. It's the flash repel, double buff Elise. Cocoon Spiderling. Oh, is it enough? Flashed away.
Fine, actually.
That's a fantastic ward to collapse onto Incursius. 0-4 so far. His damage output isn't going to be the highest. Claire might just be able to 1v1 him, but a fantastic charm there by Mel.